You know what, Frank? I think I've just learned something today. Do you know what's worse than a bad movie? A disappointing movie. Roll the footage.
If you don't stop it, there won't be any home to go back to.
Where's that door open? Got it up! Got it up!
Big things have small beginnings.
So yeah, that's Prometheus. Again, is it a bad movie? Well, that's hard to say. It is directed wonderfully. I mean, the movie is a visual masterpiece. It's gorgeous to look at. In fact, the first time I saw it was in theaters, and I was so blown away by the gorgeous views and the visuals and the lighting in this movie, the cinematography, that I actually enjoyed myself. And then I got to see it on the smaller screen where it was a little bit more self-contained, and I got to see a little bit more of the cracks, and well, yeah, it doesn't hold up, unfortunately. Which is sad, given that this is directed by Ridley Scott, who directed Alien and Blade Runner. He's a master, and he should have been able to pull off yet another great science fiction film. With that said, actually, Frank had this theory about this movie the other day, and you know what? Let's take a look. Oh, Ridley Scott, please, come in, have a seat. I hope that's the new script for that Prometheus you're working on. We're so excited to see that here in this wonderful studio. Just remind me, is that the one about the spaceship going off into space looking for the people who created life on this planet? The one that's going to challenge evolutionary ideas and religion? Be a great modern science fiction film like your Blade Runner and Alien series? Oh, that sounds excellent. I think we're pretty much ready to greenlight it. You know, there are probably some changes that we're going to want to make, and we still need to get it approved by all of our board of directors, but it's looking pretty good. Well, you know, it does sound excellent, but I do have an idea for this. Now, just hear me out here, just throwing this out, just spitballing. What if we made this a prequel to your Alien film? You know, I think it's a shot of genius here. Got a chance of a good moneymaker. What do you think? That is a fabulous idea he has. See, this is why we pay this young man so much more money. We really do need to turn this into an Alien prequel. What do you think of the idea, Mr. Scott? Well, I'm glad we could all agree. I'll make sure we write up that check right away and get this thing going. Oh, and I do want to have another writer come in and help out that script a little. I'm sure it could use a little buffering now that we've decided the path that we're going. Well, here's to the future. Yeah, I think you did a pretty good Ridley Scott there, Frank. I think that's a pretty good accurate depiction of him. So yeah, I don't know if that's exactly what happened to this movie, but I sure like to believe it did. And guess who the writer was that they got to come in and fix this little project of Ridley Scott's? None other than the same writer who did Star Trek Into Darkness. Another film that I just reviewed, and another film that I just hated. And I hated it simply because of the script. I'm not sure what that writer's qualifications are, but somebody sure needs to slap his hand away from the keyboard, particularly when it comes to writing characters. And that's what really goes wrong with this movie, is the fact that the characters are, oh, shit. You don't care about them, you don't know who half of them are, their motivations are unclear and muddy, And you know what? This is a really good opportunity for me to just go on my little rant about characters. Because, frankly, I find them to be the most important part of a film. Yeah, plot, story, they're all there, but if you don't have the characters to ground your film, or hell, throw it into the clouds and have your audience follow along, well, frankly, you're not going to have a good film in my opinion. And now I know what you're gonna say. Scott, these aren't novels. You can't have these epically amazing characters. And for that I say, see? There are plenty of movies out there that have amazing characters. Some of them are very subtle. Some of them are over the top. So, what does Hollywood do to screw up characters yet again? Well, the first way that they can is to underwrite or overwrite certain characters. A character can be over the top, but they can also be overwritten. I won't go into all of that today. That's not really what I'm hoping to talk about. Since Prometheus doesn't really fall into that category, mostly, I think I'd like to talk about the other category, which is to stuff way too many characters in it. What I like to call a clusterfuck of character. Now, if we go look back at the original Alien film, there was only 7 characters in the movie. Prometheus, on the other hand, has a whole boatload of people. In fact, there are a lot of security guards in this film that just only show up for the sake of showing up, as in terms of a body count. The main cast themselves, well, there are a couple of main leads, and then you throw in Vickers, the captain. It just becomes muddled. You don't have enough time to develop that many characters. And what you end up with is other characters who are underdeveloped or are simply one-note sort of 2D characters in themselves. For example, usually in these kind of movies, you'll get your 1 or 2 main people, and again, they'll be very flat and underwritten. And then you'll have a couple background characters that end up just being your comic relief or token minority. And that just sort of is a lazy way of approaching it. Oh, look, he's the funny one. Oh, look, he's the black one. You know what? We shouldn't have to identify our characters in that way. So, with clusterfucking in mind, where do we see this type of writing come in? Well, I mainly see it in 2 types of films. First, superhero films. Usually you get your heroes or villains overthrown into a movie. And then you get your horror films, which has the great and wonderful body count. Which is where I'm going to throw Prometheus. Even though, yes, it's a science fiction film, it has a body count. It's a horror film in terms of my argument. So, why does Hollywood do this? Well, in terms of superhero films, it's a matter of appeal. If you can have 1 hero in your film, you're going to get people in seats. But if you can have 2 heroes in your film, hell, you're going to get more people in your seats. It's just basic math. You get the larger appeal of the audience. Same thing goes for villains. This happens in a lot of superhero movies, and a lot of the times they fail. In terms of horror movies, there's this underlying notion that body count equals tension equals a good horror movie. But that simply isn't the case. A lot of great horror movies are more psychological based and maybe only have 1 person die in it. It's really just the slasher genre that has the high ranking body count. And again, all of the good slasher films don't necessarily have to have a good high body count. But it's how they die, how we're invested in them, and what we care about them that matters. So it all really does come down to appeal. Hollywood tries to appeal with heroes and villains in superhero movies, and they try to appeal to us with body counts. It's just lazy and annoying and condescending and disrespectful. The audience doesn't need to be shown 15 people dying just for us to care about the 1 person who lives. I want to care about the person who died. Do you know what, Hollywood? What we really want is a slimmed down cast, a more fleshed out group of people. Do you know why? Because when we sit down in the theaters and when we pay money to watch these movies, when we buy your DVDs, what we want are characters that we feel emotion to, that we are angry at, that we're shocked, that we love, we hate. We want characters that are going to surprise us, that are going to send us for a twist and a turn around every corner, that we're going to have to be on the edge of our seats, nail biting, just hoping that something bad doesn't happen to them. We're not getting that when we get these clusterfucks of movies. We're just getting shock value and lazy screenwriting. Slap the hands away from the keyboards, guys, because it's not working for you. And in the case of Prometheus, what do we get? Well, like I said, we get our two main leads, and guess who the other people end up being? Mostly comic relief and body count. It's so sad to see such a great potential of a film ruined by such lazy screenwriting. It hurts a lot to see that happen. Ridley Scott is one of the greatest science fiction directors of all time. Hell, he's one of our best directors of all time. Why did we hand this movie off to such a shitty screenwriter as the same guy who does Star Trek Into Darkness, who has clearly proven that he doesn't have a clue what he's doing? Here's hoping that Prometheus 2, which has been greenlit, is going to be better. I certainly don't have my hopes up, though. Thanks for watching.